We go. Welcome to the Recap Club. The Recap Club. That would be a fun name. No, this is the recap call for the club, which is in a transition right now from just the Creative Club into the Creative Coaching Club. And I can't tell you the new brand that's coming to a theater near you, but I love it and I think you will love it too. We started down the path of doubling your business by cutting your self doubt by 90%. That is what I'm about to lay all my cards on because I've done it enough time in my life and for my clients that I now believe anybody can do it. And I have the evidence, both internal and external, that makes me on fire. To do that, though, to double your business, to cut your self doubt by 90%, in my world doesn't mean we just go out there and start posting on social media more and taking out more ads on social media. That might be what some programs talk about. Here we talk about some setting of the stage, some foundations, and I think you will see as they integrate into your life, you just even have to listen to these and try them on. They will start doing the magic. They will start changing you if you are in alignment with what we're talking about. So this week I am still helping my mom recover from surgery, and naturally being here with my mom from origin of my birth, I've been thinking about concepts like being triggered and being activated, as well as being loving and being helpful, and holding and honoring boundaries and creating safe spaces for myself and her. And the club is going through some changes right now where it's becoming very clear that we need to know what this means to be an ally, to show up for marginalized communities, to have a voice, to lend your voice, to support other voices. And in the coaching space, the healing space, if you're in a creative space, basically, if you are a human being in the human space, there are endless opportunities to feel discomfort, hard emotions, feel scared. And that all touches places like feeling triggered and feeling activated. So I want to say, and I will be saying a lot, that therapy is a very good thing. That is not coaching, that is not mentorship. It's not the same as guidance or teaching. Therapy is good and necessary for healing trauma and working through triggers. Coaching is also a perfect place to allow for discomforts. What was I thinking? Oh, allow for discomfort, which means working through being activated, working with being activated when you're going through discomfort on purpose. But because feeling triggered and feeling activated are so close, the body can feel the same things: the heart racing, the pit in your stomach, the vomit factor, the sweaty palms, the mind spinning. And in fact, they are so close sometimes, so nuanced, that to understand them and to understand yourself and the people that you care for or work with and help as they work through differences between triggered and activation, that's one of the things that can change the course of humanity. I wish more groups, more corporations, more governments were talking about this at this level. I've been going back to my coaches on trauma informed care. I've been re engaging with my resources on how to be an ally, how to signal inclusion, to truly walk what I believe the talk should be, and follow through on that in everything that I offer. So thank you for trusting me. Thank you for being here. I do not take that lightly. We watch each other. You watch me. I'm grateful for your feedback. I am a very flawed human being, and I will continue to be a flawed human being, and I'm still going to keep doing it anyway. And I hope that goes for you too, because we're moving through a living, breathing creation of what's possible when highly sensitive, purpose driven creatives want to bring what's inside into the outside world. By very definition, that feels very vulnerable. So we're all flawed. We're all going to make mistakes. And I hope that this opens the door for you to make some mistakes and still feel safe, even while you feel unsafe. So let's talk about activation and triggers today. Or that's what we talked about all week. I want to give you some definitions, how I'm using them. When I say triggered, I use it to signify the state where your emotional response has been hijacked and your ability to make sense of your experience is temporarily impaired. That might look like memories flooding back or flashbacks, your heart might race, You might feel overwhelmed with an emotion or several emotions. In my world, when I say the word triggered, it usually means that your nervous system has been temporarily transported back to the original trauma. And I define trauma as anything that you had to go through or went through when your nervous system wasn't ready for it. Now, on the other side of this spectrum, I'm talking the word activation or activated. And that's when you do retain some capacity to engage in at least an internal dialogue about your emotional state. You can recognize those physical responses like your heart racing or sweaty palms. You haven't become the heart racing. You see them as a reaction to a specific stimulus that has activated your nervous system. And having this awareness means that you can establish now a connection between the stimulus or the triggering subject and the physical sensations. It means you can acknowledge that you are feeling a certain way because that stimulus has activated your thoughts and your feelings and your system. So, to put that in a lighter context, I drew you some pictures this week. So go back and watch those. I'm not going to draw them here, but they were really good. And y'all know my art is very good. But picture this. I drew a picture of you down at the bottom of the screen. And then I put a bunch of your goals at the top of the screen, like some money goals and some love goals, relationship maybe in your partnership or to find a partnership. We talked about service goals. We talked about spiritual goals, anything that you know that you are going for. And then I drew some straight lines going directly to those goals because that's what we all want. We hope that we can have a goal and it's going to be great to go there. Then I erased those straight lines because what really happens is a very zigzaggy, swirly, messy path that sometimes ends at the goal, sometimes ends just next to the goal. Sometimes you think you're going for one thing, but you actually get the other goal first. Am I right, Adana? You know what I'm talking about with this lieutenant colonel stuff. So it can be long. It can be longer than we want. It can be confusing. It can bring up emotions. Then I drew these points along this zigzaggy path. And the points are what I am calling the activation points. So then we went to another page, another little napkin drawing, and we talked about what those activation points really look like because there's a whole spectrum of starting with, ooh, this makes me feel alive, makes me get up and go. I have energy. Maybe it makes me angry. Maybe it makes me want to do something about it. Pick up a microphone, pick up a pen, pick up something, start acting. Or maybe it touches into discomfort. Maybe it touches into something even more than discomfort, anger, frustration, pain. All the way, this is a spectrum, this is a line until you reach complete triggered. So I have sat for thousands of hours with musicians who wanted as a goal to expand into a higher musicianship, play the piano, play the cello, play the guitar, whatever we want. And that doesn't seem like you should have to feel a lot of discomfort or activation or even feeling triggered because shame comes up when you make mistakes. But at me as the practitioner, me as the coach sitting there, I could see that it was going to happen before sometimes it even happened. So at first, early in my career, I would brace myself or I would even preemptively try to help before the activation occurred, before the trauma or the drama or whatever came up was even touched. And slowly but surely, I realized that does no one any good. The musicians you want to become, the wealthy people you want to become, the coaches, the healers, the guides, the business women you want to become, come from those activation points, activating you and you learning how to move through that and reintegrate that energy, because that's all it is energy that you're either losing to some thoughts and feelings or some past traumas, or you're reintegrating them and using that, riding that wave of energy. I also gave you an example this week of being with my mom after surgery. And I really respect doctors, nurses. I come from medical staff. That's what my family usually does. If they are in a profession, it's usually something in the medicines. But this team of nurses with my mom, she hadn't gotten her medication and we were a couple hours overdue. So naturally, my mom, who was an operating room nurse her whole life, was like, well, I guess I'm getting out of bed. She starts stripping herself of all of the tubes and everything. She puts on some slippers. We walk out into the hall. We head to the nurse's station. To which one of the nurses goes, oh my gosh, what are you doing out of bed? Let me get your nurse. She goes into the nurse's station and out pops her nurse with the medicine in hand. And she says, I was just coming to see you. I have your medicine right here. And my brain or my system got a little activated. I had thoughts that she wasn't really actually about to come see us, but now she had been caught not really about to come see us. And as we walked back together to my mom's hospital room, she said, I guess I won't eat my lunch first, or some comment about not eating her lunch before she does this. I felt more activation, more energy come into my system. I was very clear, this is a light example, that it wasn't a complete, I didn't lose myself, I didn't lose my emotions, right? And I was managing all of this and feeling all of this, feeling my heart race, feeling my stomach turn, feeling the desire to say something or be something or stand up for something. But once it back in the room and my mom had the medicine, as we kept talking with the nurse, she was talking about how as patients get better and go home, she's the charge nurse. She is in charge of cutting the staff. So given that they've made some budget cuts and some things, they're always managing patient care with their staff being able to stay at work. To which my heart did a whole nother activation and understood that this person is holding many people's health and well-being in her heart, in her mind, for better or for worse. So I gave that light example of how activation can quickly move into heightened discomfort, quickly move into serious activation, and we can lose ourselves. And sometimes, as you all have very good examples and brought good examples of, if you don't allow that activation to take you over, to realize you have a choice of how deep you allow yourself to be activated. When you understand the difference and then you move through activation on purpose, you become able and willing to feel any emotion. And when you can feel any emotion, you are free. So that's what we were talking about. And we started to integrate in a more tangible way what it means to feel unsafe or feel activated in that direction and still maintain an understanding of your safety. And we're going to be working more with what that means as we work into inclusion and creating safe spaces, what it means to be an ally, even when you're activated or you see others as activated. I've been doing a deep dive in order to do this work, even more so this week. And I started to look over the last 5, 6, 7, 8 decades about what human beings have been arguing about, fighting about over the last 50 to 100 years. Because that's part of my process. I love doing deep dives in the biology, in the psychology, in the quantum physics. And I'm not a doctor, I'm a coach. So I will be bringing you my history lessons as I can assimilate them through the lens of music turned life turned business coach. But to have a lens being devoted to creatives who are building businesses so that they can create internal and external safety first, so that you can have safety always and feel free enough to tap into your imagination. Start co-creating with creativity or the divine or God or whatever you call an energy or a force greater than you, so you can finally get some momentum on your projects, your businesses. Maybe you're just moving house and you need more energy. You need to generate more energy. That's possible. And that can become your new rhythm, your new routine, your new way, your new self-concept, your new way of seeing yourself. And as I do this research, which I promise to bring you as soon as I'm ready, and draw these conclusions, let me tell you, seeing what humans have been fighting over is activating, right? There is a lot of pain in our human past, a lot of injustice, still is, a lot of unnecessary harm, and cycles of repeating that. And from a 10,000-mile view, a 10,000-mile perspective, it all seems totally, to me, this is my opinion, ridiculously unnecessary. I understand why it happened, but I have thoughts about it. So I have to tap in and out of being activated and regulate myself and my nervous system and integrate the energy so I can use it for good and not evil. Do you know what I'm talking about? When you're activated and you just want to act and you want to say, I'm unsafe and it's here's the problem and you're the problem. To be able to regulate and find the nuances in that is a skill, and it's a skill you can learn. But it got me thinking about other times and places where things were super important to me, so I willingly tapped into being activated. Where are you willing to be tapping in to activating yourself? I've hired coaches that I flat out didn't like on purpose because they activated me. If I disagreed with them, I got closer instead of farther away, because I want to grow as long as I can maintain my own sense of safety and be willing to feel anything. I've dated people, read books, watched movies, traveled to countries, tried on religions, all that activated me because I know that that's where the expansion points are. So, and I know you have done this too. You just might not be seeing your activation points from your past as the very propulsions that have actually brought you into a bigger version of you. So I reminded you all again multiple times, let's keep this conversation alive about what triggered means, maybe to you, maybe there's something different to you, where your emotional responses, you don't quite have a handle on them. How do you call that? What do you say about that? And how being activated is where you can still maintain your capacity to engage with your emotional state while seeing you're not re-traumatizing. So I think that's everything. I did tell you a story about a boss that I had, the first boss out of college, the first authority figure that didn't like me, that disagreed with me, but got credit for a lot of my ideas, and the activation I didn't have a handle on. I was getting waves of trauma. I couldn't see straight. My body took the brunt. I was diagnosed with lifelong diseases. It got bad. I lost 30 pounds in a month. I was bleeding out of places you're not supposed to bleed. And that all helped me see the difference between slight activation to mild discomfort, to irritation and frustration, to complete anxiety and disorientation, to finally emotional flooding and triggering. I've titrated that so deeply over those years. Can you look back and see where you did that somewhere and what you actually gained, rather than just be a braced force against that ever happening again? There's a whole spectrum of activation that you get to keep your wits about you, and you get to choose how much you're willing to feel. But as you choose to feel activated, you also start to see that is energy you can reclaim. You can reintegrate it. It doesn't always have to be loss. It doesn't always have to lead to exhaustion. Because remember, when you're able to feel any emotion and reintegrate its energy for you, you become free. And with that, let's pause the opening or recap and let's talk about what you're hearing, what's true for you. This is a safe space. You can say anything. There doesn't matter what's the religion, it does matter, of course. What is important to you matters, but you are safe here. There is nothing you can say that will make me love you any less or you be any less safe here.